So today we're going to be working with our emotions and how our emotions impact our goals in a really cool and helpful way. So let's just take a moment for everyone to arrive. We can open our chat. I see some of you are group coaches. If you're a group coach at Coaching Institute, please, if you want to, you can change your name to say group coach. And there is Linda here being our amazing team member and support during the workshop. I should have messaged you the slideshow, but it seems okay. So it's good to see some of you I haven't seen for a while, like Christina and Susan. And hi, Moses. I see that you're here. So you guys are just at the top of my screen. And Tom, Vicky, good to have you guys. Charlene, everybody. Andrew, Red, welcome, welcome. So some of you might have actually done this workshop in the past, but today is going to be a little different. We're going to look at reverse engineering an important goal we have in our life and how we use emotional helpers to support us in all the little things we do when we're working towards a project or an action or something we want to create in our life. So I'm going to go ahead and share my slides because they really help me to share with you. But before I do, I would love to know just kind of right away when you think of a goal you have, what comes to your mind? Would you share it in the chat? And this is going to help all of us to just sort of kind of get in the zone of connecting to each other and bringing our focus and our imagination together to whatever it is that's happening for each of us that we want to create. It could be as simple as like, I've got something that sounds simple, but it's like looming. Like I could use some metaphors like huge in my mind. I have a 3-car garage I need to clean out and I don't want to have all those things anymore. And yet that's a lot to go through. So that's a project in my mind that I need some emotional helpers for. Oh, there's some great shares here. Finish my book, become a life coach, a lucrative coaching business. And so many of us are coaches and that's a goal and that's beautiful. See if you can even find in that a part of your business that can be a goal. If like you can get even closer to it. Clean out my basement. Oh, you're with me, Trisha, on that one, huh? Needing to move, social media posts, newsletter, plant new grass in my yard. I get it. That's a big one too. Write my book about my dad. Okay, beautiful goals are being shared. So read each other's goals and we're just starting that emotional connection, which is really special here because we support each other as we do this work. So just that wish to be here for each other is really important. And I want to ask you to be active during the workshop. So to write things down, you can write them in your own document. You can share them in the chat. Of course, it helps us when you share. And to really engage with everything today, not just here, but from the chin down in your body. We're going to allow our body to really empower us through the process. And the more you participate in the chat, the more I know if I need to slow it down, take longer, change one of the steps, or work with you. Linda's going to be reading the chat too to see if anyone's asking for particular support. So you already started to choose a goal. Let me know if it works for you to imagine, like if it was your coaching business, one part of it being completed in 8 to 12 weeks. Because we're going to be working backwards actually in weeks as we go. So it's nice if you can make a goal that you have something that you could see being completed in as little as 2 to 3 months. And this would be an outer goal. So we can have inner goals, which are states and feelings, and those are super important. And most of us think of a goal as something outside, right? That we're accomplishing. Like if we're running a marathon, we're thinking about that actual day of the marathon when we're running that marathon. But your goal can be anything. It could also be a hobby that you want to start, a relationship, something with your health. There's no end to the possibilities of what those goals might be. Hey, and I want to just ask you before we go to the next step of the more meditative part, I want to ask you, is anyone um not happy with the word goal? Do you prefer the word intention? Or how do you relate to that idea of a goal? Like we're all so unique in this way, and I think it's important to recognize that about ourselves. Like some of us start to get a little bit, we notice a feeling right away, like an anxiety when we start thinking about a goal. If we say like an intention, or there's another language we have that makes us feel more okay with it. So just check that out for yourself. I really want to honor your own language in that and share it with us in the chat, because this helps us all grow when we see the wording that works for each of us. And those of us who are coaches and group coaches, it really helps us to understand the way we all relate to this idea of a goal, you know? Um, okay, great. Sue Ellen said goal is something more concrete and real. Intention is more of something I try. Yep. Outcome does feel more digestible to me as well. Outcome, great language. What else, you guys? See, this is how we co-create this content. It's not just me giving you my idea of wording and ways to be with this. I really want to know how it lives for you. Um, One thing that sort of shows up for me, which is a little bit more on maybe the way I lean, which is a little more like, mystical imagination person, but it's like the dream I have. Like, it's a little bit more maybe expansive in its outcome. It's more like the living dream. Manifested goal, great. Could be for someone, my passion project, or they use, you just check out your language around that. It's probably pointing to a general atmosphere around that goal, the way you like to word it for yourself. Yes, I knew there was someone here at least who said, there's more than one person who says, I don't like the word goal. Thank you for sharing that. Yep. Situation which starts in, oh yeah, it can feel competitive. Great point. Yep. Project. So a project might be more helpful. Okay, wonderful. So I am going to probably keep using the word goal, just so you know, but translate it for yourself as we go, just because my slide will say goal, but I want you to feel it in your own way. So let's just take a few moments now to go more inside. We've been greeting each other, learning a little bit about what we're going to do, thinking a bit about the future. And now we want to drop in for just about 3 to 5 minutes. So let yourself feel steady in your seat, whatever that means for you. Sometimes I have to adjust my pillow, feel my feet on the ground. And when you feel settled in your seat, in your chair, in a way that feels very solid in your body, take 3 deep breaths in your own way, just really arriving here now in your body. 3 deep breaths. And if you'd like, you can breathe in fully through your nose and out fully through your mouth. Just imagining how that air fills your whole diaphragm. It allows your belly to soften and expand as you breathe in. And fully exhaling, letting it all out. Maybe one more deep breath. And then let's go to our heart space and just put a hand on our heart and just be with your own inner heart energy for a few moments. Feeling that sense, that experience of the hand there against your skin. As you breathe, just noticing all of your body as you breathe, the connection, the kindness in your heart, and noticing your whole physical body. And you can imagine now just feeling the air around your body and going as far out as you'd like, feeling into the room or staying very close to your skin. And then back to your heart, that connection with your own inner experience, letting yourself ground your energy, just imagining roots going down into the earth. You might want to bring your attention to your feet and imagine your feet breathing. And from here, ask yourself in a very kind, gentle tone, how are you? How am I? And just notice any answer you receive and validate that feeling, whatever it is. And all through the workshop today, we'll always validate any emotion, any feeling, any physical experience or thought, whatever shows up in each of us is always welcomed, allowed. We can be curious about ourselves as we get information, and we can be kind to ourselves, validating, allowing, and also adding in. So take a moment now as you notice that feeling state that first showed up and see if there's any way that feeling, and maybe it was a thought, not a feeling that showed up. That's okay too. Notice how it is experienced in your body. Is there a temperature or a way your body calls attention to a place or a sensation? So we're making the connection between a feeling and body sensations, and also any thoughts that arise. We're each unique. Some of us will have thoughts more than feelings. Some of us will have that physical knowing or sensing or call out. And we can translate that physical into what is the feeling of that? Like a funny thing my body said to me was like restless knees. Your knees are a little jittery, Magley. And so I'm like, okay, so my knees are restless. Do I need to translate that further? And I got the word jumpiness. Okay, maybe that's excitement for teaching, for sharing. Maybe that's an excitement that is registering in my knees. Cool. So, in your own way, just noticing and take a moment to write down any messages. You can write them down in your own journal notes or in the chat. And let's see how was that for you to do that translation piece? Because that right there is a cool skill. Next time you're having a feeling that, how feelings, definitely the difficult ones, can sometimes sort of seem very out of our control. And there's so much in the world saying you can control your emotions, master your feelings, this very like sort of top down language about our emotions. Like we're just going to get rid of those ones we don't want. And nothing wrong with that. If that works for you, great. What I notice in myself is that it doesn't really work. The more I resist a feeling, the more we're in a battle. And it's like me and that feeling are now doing a dance I don't really like. But if I can stop and name it, notice it as sensation, validate it with my words, like, oh, I am feeling whatever it is, irritation. Or my body is showing me this about that feeling. That getting closer to it, like a friend that's, of course, given permission to change. Of course, we want difficult feelings to change. But through being with it and noticing the details of it, the relationship is one of much more camaraderie, right? We're on the same side here. And then what we're going to learn today is that we can then invite emotional helpers in, kind of like antidotes to what might be difficult for us. So if we notice an anxiety or an overwhelm, like lately I just look at this thing and feel that. I'm like, don't look at that phone. But so, and I really, what I mean is social media. So, you know, what we're gonna really work today with what would be, once I can label it, once I know the sensations of it, once I've accepted that we're friends. It's not only trying to help me. All our feelings at some level want to do good for us. But then I can bring in this emotional helper. I can bring in another feeling just through, well, we'll look at how we do that as we move forward. And some people are sharing what they wrote down, which I love. Please remember, we're attempting to be very engaged here in the chat so we all learn from each other. So please write down when you noticed that in your body just now. What did you notice? Was there one channel, I'll just call them channels, that spoke more loudly? Was it thoughts? Was it emotional or kind of a intuition? Or was it body sensations? Is one of those easier for you, or images? Or maybe you're very sensitive. You smelled something. What was it for you when you went into that inner landscape? Body sensation, awesome. Thoughts and sensations, body sensations. Ooh, we've got a lot of body feelers. Very cool. Okay, so you felt the emotion there. Some people said the actual emotion. That's great too, being able to label that. Great. So when you have it primarily as a body sensation or a thought, or primarily as a feeling, play with that translation. Is there one other channel that you want to translate that to? And just name it for yourself. Oh, I want to know how my body senses that. Or I want to know a word that I can associate more exactly with that feeling. Or a feeling I want to associate with that word. So we're creating these pathways in us to talk to those different channels, or have those channels talk to each other. We can't hear your dogs, so that's a good thing about Zoom, right? We can't hear the dogs. I don't think you guys can even hear my dogs, which is really nice because we have 3 dogs, and if they all start barking, I'm like, oh no. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to the slides. And by the way, if you are a group coach, you're gonna get these slides. So I think we all know that for some of us, emotions can be subtle, and I wanted to make sure I mentioned that if you are more of a subtle emotion person, that's perfect. And that would just mean that it is kind of harder to find the feeling. For you, it might be the word or an image or a physical like pain or discomfort or pleasant feeling in the body. So you'll still get a lot out of the workshop, even if you're more of a subtle person when it comes to emotions. And um even maybe this type of workshop is even better for you because it teaches you a little more how to get closer to those feelings. And just really validate yourself that it's okay to notice a fogginess or to feel like a feeling comes and then shifts very quickly. Like that's sometimes how I sense feelings, is that they show up and then they're gone and another feeling is there. And it's like I'm cycling through feelings quite quickly. So that's another way we might be a little different in our perception of emotions. Sometimes it's surprising to people that they can feel more than one thing at a time. That can actually cause a kind of discomfort. Like I shouldn't be sad and happy. And then a third emotion might come in like shame or guilt, because there's a myth about emotions. So we all have, I don't have a slide about this, but I think it's important to acknowledge. Do you know any myths that you have, personal emotional myths? There's some global ones out there, like typical ones of like, it's not good to make a decision from an emotion. Have you guys ever kind of heard that sort of idea being generated? And actually, it's quite the opposite. In many cases, we feel fear in order to make a split moment decision to get out of danger, right? Or we feel love in order to really connect at the social level with someone else. These feelings they give us directions to navigate our environment and our relationships very quickly. And, we are animals. I don't know, some of you might not like that statement, but um, animals also have emotions, and it helps us survive. So it's interesting how emotions are a part of our evolution, and yet maybe from childhood or from education or certain groups we belong to, education we've had, whatever it is, we inherit some myths about feelings, and it's good to identify. Like like I have one, and those of you who know me well, I'm very open about this. I'm not a fan of anger. I'm always trying to I understand the value of anger. I validate it. I try to get to know it. Bottom line, I still have some myths about it. Like I still have some struggles with it. And that's okay. I know that about myself. So I have to be extra supportive to myself when feeling anger, because it's not a comfortable one for me. Going back to my childhood. So we all have these um, ways we have learned to be towards our emotions. Do any of you have any that jump out at you right now? Like some people were really honored for their anger, and like healthy anger, like it gave them action taking. They felt good about it. Maybe they were an athlete and it was a sort of, I don't know, I'm trying to imagine. Or another type of emotion that um you just sort of shy away from, or you lean into more. Just notice your own tendencies that way.
Magali,
Yeah.
Verena was wondering if you could kind of describe what it means for someone to be kind of more subtle emotion person. Like what would that be?
Sure. Well, in coaching, sometimes I'm told by a client, Magali, you're such a big like emotion person and your community is so into emotions. I'm not. I'm much more logical. I'm not a big feeler. So, do you have any friends that way? Or do you feel that way? That's totally true. Some people just don't identify so much. Of course, they have feelings, but feelings don't show up as being as maybe important or vivid to them. And instead, they might have reasoning, thoughts, logic, values that just feel more relevant in their life and in their way of being. Um, we do tend in the coaching community to be feelers, but that's not always the case. And there can be amazing coaching that happens when someone has a little is more of a subtle experiencer. Like it's a little less than it it doesn't overwhelm the conversation, you could say. Yeah, and thank you for that very honest share there from Mark, that it can be hard to translate a sensation into a feeling. And one of the things we're doing when we do that is just make a guess, imagine. So that's part of the skill here. We're just kind of imagining, like we're being playful like children. And as we empower our imagination, our intuition kicks in, and a lot of supportive, unconscious resources come to the foreground because we're trusting this playful imagination quality. And that's what, like, people who do spiritual work with journeys or mystics, they'll just really allow the imagination and they'll validate it. They'll feel that that is real. Where others might have that same imagination, but they're going, that's not real. That's just a dreamlike imagining. Okay. Oh, I just read a good one. Myth: when tired, don't make a decision. I kind of like that, to be honest. That might be a myth, but I kind of, that's one maybe I should do more of. Don't make decisions when tired. Go to bed. You know, it's probably, and I was going to talk about this later in the workshop, but we all have times of day also where we're more emotionally vulnerable. We tend to be either morning or evening. Like, some people really struggle to wake up in the morning and start their day, and they need to do practices to align with their values and what matters to them and everything right off in the morning. Other people struggle in the evening as soon as they're tired. It's almost like I'm one of those tired evening people, and it's almost like everything that was all optimistic and loving and good at 10 a.m. now at 10 p.m. is like a dark shadow has fallen and life is no longer wonderful. And it's like, okay, this is what tired feels like in my emotions. And that's when it's really good to be able to translate. My body is having this sensation. I'm translating that inappropriately into this sort of doom feeling. I can just say, oh, my body is tired. And that gives me a lot of agency then to take care of myself at that physical level. Okay. I'm gonna move on, or I've noticed I've become a more meandering workshop giver, and we have a lot to cover. All right, we're gonna do another exercise experience right now. And we're going to go through 4 different scenarios. And we're doing this so that you experience at that experiential level, I don't have another word for it, your senses as you use your imagination. This is going to open things up for you. So let's begin by closing your eyes if you're comfortable. If you're not, just pick a spot in front of you and have like a half closed eye. Reground yourself, take a deep breath. And imagine a garden full of flowers. This might be a garden you've been to in the past. This might be a garden fully in your imagination or from a movie or a book. And just slowly invite yourself as you continue to notice your breath is slow and even. You're imagining this garden and you might feel it in your body. You might see it. You might just know it's there. I'm just sort of allowing this knowing of a garden, letting your sense of smell open up, noticing the weather in your garden, the colors, smells, maybe the way the breeze is, or the sun, or the wind, or the rain. And just take some time in your garden now. Do thoughts show up? Do feelings? Does your body give you some messages? However, you're imagining your garden is the absolute perfect way to be in your garden right now. When you're ready, open your eyes and write down how you feel and what showed up for you as you did that couple minutes of imagining. All right, and then we're gonna go to the next one. Maybe I'll give it another minute for you to write down and notice if you need to translate a feeling from what you were sensing. So, and take it a step further. If you get a word like peace or discomfort, what else about that? Okay, now we're going to go to a totally different scene. Again, feel free to close your eyes. Take a nice full breath. Coming back inside your inner landscape, opening all your senses, and imagine you're in a busy coffee shop. Feel the air of the coffee shop, the smells, the sounds, maybe the taste. Notice your feelings in the coffee shop. And take your time with all of your senses open as you imagine the coffee shop. Notice how your body feels in the coffee shop. And notice your feelings. Maybe you get one word or two, or you get a sense of the feeling being shown to you, or an image of the feeling. And just go ahead and write it down. It's just an exercise, opening up the imagination. And share what you got, one word. And it's so interesting how we all have different associations to a garden, to a coffee shop, right? And we're gonna do one more. I love the shares here. Got relaxed, comfort, satisfied, observing, interested. Ooh, feeling that warm cup in my hands. Feeling the heavy clothing. Love that. Okay, now we're gonna, if you were feeling hot, you're in good company because next we're gonna go to some coldness, a snowy landscape. So close your eyes and just let yourself take a nice deep breath. Really relaxing with your exhale. and opening your imagination to a snowy landscape. This can be any snowy landscape you've ever experienced, or one that you just imagine. Maybe you don't live near where it snows, but you've seen snow in a movie, and you can just imagine what it's like to be out noticing the snow, noticing the way the environment is in the snow. Noticing how you feel here in the snowy landscape. Feeling your body as you imagine the snowy landscape. Words that come to you, thoughts, images, knowing or feeling. And when you're ready, write them down for yourself in the chat, whatever works for you. Great. There's already some shares in the chat. Blessed, chilly ears tingle, quiet, awe, cool, relaxed, fresh, breathtaking, joy about snowflakes, wonderful shares, gentle, exploration. I felt the quiet of it. White snowing wonderland, fun. So it's interesting. And if we're skiers or, ice skaters or something, there'd be a different kind of sensation, right? Than if we're sort of observing. Okay, one more. You guys, your imagination is just, it's really getting in the zone now. So now, just to give it variety, we're going to have a hot day. So a hot summer day. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and just relax as you exhale and transport yourself to a hot summer day. Whatever landscape you choose on this hot summer day. Feeling what it's like to be in the heat. Is it sunny? Noticing the environment. Noticing the inner feelings, the inner physical sensations. A hot summer day. What words come to you? Thoughts? Are there feelings that come? And remember, you can translate images, thoughts, body sensations into feelings. And when you're ready, write them down and open your eyes. All right, that was great. We did all of that in less than 10 minutes. So you just went to four landscapes and you got different feelings. So just notice now the different sensations from, I have to remember what the first one was. The garden, the coffee shop, the snowy landscape, the summer day. That's probably, we all have quite a bit of range there in our experience of those four places. And I think it's cool to just take that in, like how flexible you are as a human being to imagine these different things and to feel different ways. And for your body, even probably to feel a certain way in the coffee shop versus the snow or the hot day, right? Or the garden. Like even in our body, like the way our imagination can affect our body is pretty amazing. Ooh, I loved it that you were, Anna Maria, that you were in the swimming pool. That's awesome. Okay. So just noticing that there's nothing to do with it other than to realize that it's pretty cool how you can do that. And we're going to also just notice now how our unconscious emotions, things we're not even aware of that we're feeling, might affect our actions and decisions. As a coach, I see this all the time, that people share with me a sort of light, foggy feeling they have when they start talking about a goal. And that's like a kind of atmosphere they get into that restricts them or limits them. Or when someone's talking about something they love, how the unconscious will just seem to affect their whole body and face, and they might not have even been aware of the emotions what they love brings out, but they're already feeling it, and you can just witness that very easily, very quickly. So sometimes our emotions don't match what we expect to happen. And this can happen a lot when it comes to working on a project or a goal or even taking a vacation. So has anyone here ever gone on a vacation they expected to be really relaxing, full of fun, interesting things to do, and they found that the people they were with on the vacation might have been in a bad mood, and that bad mood kind of killed their joy a little bit. They weren't able to overcome the other people's bad moods. Or it rained instead of being sunny, and that created a sort of, different vacation than they expected. Or they got hurt. Like if we've ever gone on a vacation or like to another location and had an experience of getting hurt or something, our feeling about that vacation or that place usually gets really connected to our physical hurt, right? Same with an emotional hurt. Same with if we go to a place and we have just like one really wonderful experience, then we think of that place as being really wonderful. Like we attach whatever our experience is to our emotion about a place or a vacation. So does that feel true to you? Can you witness that in yourself? I had a one retreat I went on where I didn't even go hiking and I got bitten by a tick and I had to go to the emergency room, and I was fine, but it was like kind of a big to do with this tick. And it is so interesting for me because it was a wonderful retreat on the one hand. On the other hand, I got bit by a tick. And so it was like, holding those two things were very interesting. So sometimes we have that. We have an experience that's this and this. And we are really working to hold both, which can be a beautiful spiritual practice. Okay. And we're going to talk more about other people's emotions also sometimes being contagious and how our emotions are contagious too. That's coming. But next, this is a very action-packed workshop. We have more experiences to do. So we are going to learn to call in supportive emotions. And I liked this picture of the paintbrushes and painting, because sometimes it's almost like choosing a new color we're going to paint with, or a new texture. We're going to learn to balance difficult emotions with helping emotions. Helpers is what I like to call them. And how do we respect our feelings, our reality, and guide our feelings into a helper emotional state so that we can work on our goal, so we can take those actions that we want to take. So we're going to begin by reverse engineering. And remember that goal you had at the beginning of the workshop? Is that still the goal you want to work with? Think about that goal for 2 to 3 months in the future. And just kind of bring that to mind. Maybe you want to write a few words about it. Or maybe you want to drop in. You can write or you can drop into your imagination and see yourself in the completion stage of that goal, whatever the goal is, whatever the project, the completion, whatever your word is for that completion stage of that goal. Imagine yourself there. See yourself doing things, or just know that you're doing them. You don't have to see them. You might feel them in your body. Notice the feelings you have in that completion, that complete stage of that project or that experience being actualized. And write down a feeling. This is an important feeling. Maybe you have several. Write down what you notice. And then I'm going to give it another few seconds because I want you to have time to write. And trust yourself. Go with your instinct. I feel this, whatever it is. Maybe there's another feeling there. Maybe there's a knowing or a message or a vision. Now let's go from that end point, that realization, that activation, that completion, back 2 weeks. So 2 weeks before you've had completion of that goal. And notice your actions. 2 weeks back from the goal completion, what are some actions you're taking? And what do you feel about them? Two weeks back, what are the things you're doing in your day before that completion stage? And what are the feelings? What are the body sensations? Any visuals you get, write them down. And notice if there's any obstacles in your way. Like if you suddenly have a feeling of an obstacle emotion, like, oh, I'm overwhelmed or something else, note that down. And see if you can give it an antidote right now, an emotional helper that would help you. Notice what feeling you'd like to add in to that 2 weeks back from the completion. It might be more ease, humor, peace, focus, joy, passion, love, whatever it is, all those antidote emotions. And now we're going to go 2 weeks further. So now we're 4 weeks from the completion. The completion is 4 weeks away, and we're doing things. We're taking actions. We're feeling a certain way. Let yourself imagine that. Imagine yourself there 4 weeks before your goal is completed. And see what you want to write about that 4-week point. See if there's a message you want to send to that you in that 4-week point right now. Maybe there's an emotional message of encouragement, of trust, of ability. Emotional helpers can come in at that 4-week point where things have probably they're in flow, there's movement. And you're imagining yourself there, and you're giving those emotional helpers to yourself. And if obstacles show up, apply some emotional antidotes, some emotional helpers, validate that obstacle, and then give it something that will help it. So if fatigue shows up, what could you give to fatigue? Rest, nourishment, and energy maybe, or joy. So just notice and let your whole body kind of do it. Sometimes I like to imagine it's in my hands. I'm there, little me in my hands in the future. But you don't have to do that. However you imagine is perfect. All your senses are open. And feel free to write as you do this. And now we're going to go back another 2 weeks. So just kind of like you might even use your body to turn the wheel back another 2 weeks. Now it's 6 weeks. It's kind of the midpoint. What are you doing? What are the actions you're doing at 6 weeks before the goal is completed? How do you feel about those actions? How do you know them in your body or in your thoughts? Take your time. You see anything that needs validation, encouragement, love, give that to yourself right now as you imagine yourself 6 weeks back from the goal. And now let's again turn the time back. It's getting closer to the present moment. Maybe you're 8 or 9 weeks from your goal. You choose a week. And so that's just a couple weeks into the future now. And imagine what you're starting to get the hang of, what's feeling natural, what you're doing, how you're feeling about those tasks, those commitments. Maybe you're learning new things. Notice it all, write it down in your own way, what matters to you, the doing and the feeling about the doing. And bring in any emotional helpers that help in the doing, that help in the processing, the integrating, the planning. Maybe there's more planning or connections at this stage. Send yourself messages of hope, of endurance, of possibility. And you can either go back to like 1 week out from the present moment if you'd like to just take it back a few more weeks or 1 week to the very beginning of the project and notice your actions, your feelings, apply antidote helper emotions, give yourself words of encouragement, maybe feelings of encouragement, of hope, of purpose, or do it energetically or in your body feeling that. So you're on many channels at once. You're in the thinking about the tasks at the beginning of the project. You're in the sensing, what does it feel like to be doing those tasks? Maybe noticing if there's any resistance and applying emotional helpers. Ooh, I'd like more of this emotion now. Oh, I can give myself this message of hope, of encouragement. This is what my body needs. This is what my mind needs. This is what my soul needs. Notice the way you nourish yourself. And take all the time you want to write and look at those different weeks. If anyone wants to write down what they noticed, what helper emotions showed up that they wanted to apply, or how they imagined themselves, or if there were messages of hope for themselves, of encouragement. I love the sharing here. And just like, I mean, I'm really moved by what people are sharing. Like I feel your caringness towards yourself. And just kind of like notice that, like if you see this whole project progression like a bubble in front of you, like just sort of imagine surrounding that now with this caring or whatever emotion or whatever sensation you want. Um, See what words show up for you as you kind of hold that whole picture of growth. All the stages from the completion to the the steps back in time. And how you can in your consciousness and your beautiful awareness just go in and give to yourself and notice what emotions you need. You know yourself better than anyone else knows you. So it's pretty cool how you'll know where you need encouragement. It just takes time to hold that for yourself instead of for someone else. And if you see a challenge, how do you nurture that? How do you validate that? So if you notice a challenge, what are words to validate that challenge that you notice? And then what's an antidote, helper emotion or word or message that you want to apply? Great shares here about helpers that showed up, like encourage, comfort, acknowledgement, celebration, rest, permission to cry. How beautiful. Um, um, People wrote about rest and feeling confident, and there's been so many great shares here. Mhm. Yeah. All right. There's more. There is more. So, can you right now, looking at the whole picture, choose a big emotional helper like this big parrot that's getting a kiss? What's a big emotional helper that you see as being kind of core to your project, something you need? Maybe there's a few of them. We're going to choose just one to strengthen now. I said in 4 ways, but I think it's like 6 ways actually. So tell me when you've got that one. Write down that one big emotional helper that we're gonna practice supporting now in several ways. This is the end of our workshop. This is another cool exercise to do. Purposefulness, love, a big hug, determination, joy, self-love, laughter, self-love. Beautiful. Determination, excitement, gratitude, compassion, encouragement, acknowledgement, competent, slow it down. Love all the encouragements. Okay, so whatever that big emotion is for you, patience, just go with one because this is just a skill you're learning that you can use with any emotion. Trust, what a good one. Um, and we're going to look at ways to call it in. So you have your one emotion written down. Now, what is a memory that gives you direct access to that emotion? So if it's trust, for example, can you think of a time when you trusted yourself? Or you trusted something or someone else? Or if it's joy, can you think of a very happy moment or an experience? Maybe you do it every day that gives you joy. Let your memory serve you. That one emotion that you're really focusing on here. Now, is there a person outside of yourself, or maybe it's a part of you, or maybe it's an animal that embodies the emotion? So a person that embodies the emotion, like this might be someone that you know who's really encouraging, or someone who's very patient. Depending on what your emotion is, they embody that emotion. The person who's very trusting, or an animal that represents that for you. People are not always the easy ones. Sometimes it's animals. Is there a place in nature? We're gonna keep going and just trust your first instinct and write it down. Is there a place in nature that reminds you of that emotion? So let's say trust is like a big mountain, or patience is like a slow lake. I don't know, whatever it is for you. And if you're musical, is there music that goes along with that emotion? Or a smell, a sound, a sight, an image? So sound, smell, or image that goes with that emotion. And just go with your first instinct and write it down. Is there a word, a request, a wish? How would you request that emotional helper to be felt by you? We all might have different language for that request. I invite patience into my body. I ask, please, can encouragement show up next to me like a friend? Think of the way you would want to word that request, that wish, or that allowing. And then when you have those words, and maybe you have a smell or an image or a sound, maybe you have the place in nature or the person or the memory, it's okay if you didn't get all of those. We gave lots of options here. Notice how your body wants to receive that emotional helper. Think of that emotion that you're doing this for: patience or trust or encouragement or compassion or joy, whatever it is. And let your body take a position that either feels like that emotion or welcomes it into you. And let your face sort of be that emotion too. Let your heart, let your legs. You might even imagine walking as that emotion. So that would be felt in your body and in your imagination. Can you imagine walking as that emotion? Maybe you enter a room. You notice how the emotion changes your posture, your energy, your thoughts. So just let your body teach you right now for a second as you embody that emotional helper, and imagine yourself entering a space, whether you're walking or maybe you're flying, I don't know, in that emotion, really letting your imagination have fun. And another way, just to keep adding on, another way we might relate to these emotional helpers is to think about emotions like clouds or butterflies or little angels or pollen floating around that we are saying, hey, you can land on me. Someone somewhere is experiencing this emotion I want. Someone out there, maybe thousands of people, are feeling peaceful right now, or patient, or loving, or compassionate, or encouraging. And I'm going to just tune in to that channel of that emotion, and I'm going to just let it land on me like I'm receiving that radio station, or that quality of that beautiful floaty thing that just lands on me as that emotion. That's another way we can tune in and receive that emotional helper. So you might even want to imagine you're adjusting a radio channel until you find the frequency of your emotional helper, or that it's floating around, it's affecting so many people in the world, and you let yourself be a really good landing place for it. You invite it, you welcome it. Now we're going to go back to our goal. So when you're ready, going back to your goal, and just quickly reviewing, this is my goal. This is my big emotional helper that's going to help me. If you notice any obstacles that show up as you're with your goal, maybe your one emotional helper is going to help, or it has friends that come in. So if you see any obstacles, resistances, but no statements, or I can't because, or I never do, apply one of those emotional antidotes right now. Tune into that frequency. Say to yourself, no, you have the courage. I feel that courage. I feel that love, whatever it is. And let yourself invite that into your whole body, your face, your breath. And if any words want to be written right now, you can journal. And when you're ready, we're going to commit to this emotional alignment. So that one goal with one or two emotional helpers, and see if there's a time of day each day that you want to commit for just a minute or two to some reminders of how you call that in. This could be in your body through a posture or a movement. You might know that you want to do it before bed, or when you wake up, or when you have breakfast, or when you take your walk, when you drive somewhere, when you get there, you want to do it, whatever time of day. And just go to your notes and go, okay, am I going to think of that song? Or am I going to tune into the radio channel? Or am I going to think of the person that embodies that? What works for me? And it could be that in general, you notice there's a time of day you need it more than another time of day. Like you might need it more in the morning, or you might need it more in the evening, or you might need it more in the midday, in the afternoon. So just be aware of that and allow yourself to commit to a couple ways for just 1 or 2 minutes. You're going to call it in. So when we don't do this consciously, we're way more available to interference happening. Someone else's mood affects our mood. Uh, distraction occurs for us. Something gets in our way. And the way we can really help ourselves is to find that commitment to each day. I will remind myself at this time, I will find that emotional helper. Maybe you want to set a timer for every couple hours, whatever works for you. And this is very intentional, emotional leadership in your own life is what we're doing. And see if you want to have more check-ins with yourself. Are there key moments in the day? Like, do you want to set a timer? What works for you? And let's share that in the chat and see what works for everybody. I know I need to do it around 6 p.m., no doubt. Sometimes we just know it. We know our time, you know? Maybe it's right before you do your tasks for your project. And so then really choose, you did a lot today. See which exercise felt the most aligned with you. So there's really good. And Keiichi had a great daily in the morning and the evening. Right before my task, said Verena. With enthusiasm early for the day ahead, said Tom. Great. Okay. Well, that was a lot. We did a lot today. Anyone want to share? Anyone look at their project now and want to go brainstorm some ideas for it? I'm going to start with getting a bunch of plastic bins. That's what I'm committing to. And good garbage bags, those like heavy duty ones. Okay. And Kichi, hi, and thank you for spelling out how am I saying it right?
Yeah, what I really liked was how these emotional, I guess, anchors or support can help from distractions, because I feel like I've curated a space, but within that space there can be distractions. So I was like, oh, because I have to remind myself of that intention, even though I'm in the midst of it. But I think I just need to kind of tap the wheel. I think of it as like tapping the wheel to
That's a
keep
great
like thinking.
metaphor.
Yeah, like to keep tapping the wheel to keep it going. So take
Yeah,
the
yeah.
wheel. And
I love
tap
that.
it with
For me,
something
it's
that
like
feels
tuning
comfortable.
in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
tuning in. But I think because what can happen is discomfort, because I'm super sensitive, can pull focus. And then
Mhm.
I become about resolving. And I'm thinking if I can use a contrary or a just an imagination to kind of overcome the volume of the discomfort, like meditation, I guess.
Right, right. So an important step there, if you like it, is to validate it first. Like knowing the discomfort is, give it a name, like it's this feeling or
Oh,
sensation.
that's-
It's like it's got value, it wants to help me, but now I'm going to bring in an emotional helper. And that way we're not ignoring what's showing up for us, right?
oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm moving. Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you for sharing. Yeah. And Tom, I saw your hand go up. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Hi, Magali. How are you?
I'm good.
Good, good. Thank you. This was a wonderful workshop. Thank you so much. It
Absolutely.
really helped me a lot. So, when I got to the last part there where we were inviting in emotional helpers and calling forth for the emotions, I first of all, my goal was to plant the grass in my yard and get my backyard looking nice for the spring and the summer. And so the first one that came to me was my dog, Duke, who died about a year and a half ago, and Duke is buried in the backyard.
Oh,
And so it's really Duke's area, and part of it is that I feel like I want to give Duke a nice, uh, peaceful and friendly and pleasant place to be. And Duke is also very encouraging because in earlier years, when I've done yard work, he's always been out there in the yard with me. So that was nice. And when I think of a place in nature, I thought of when I finished hiking the John Muir Trail a couple of years ago, and I stood at the top of Mount Whitney, and I felt this huge feeling of accomplishment and capability, and all the planning and execution that went into it brought me there. And I can imagine myself that I have a picture on my wall of me and my friends there, and it's very inspiring and empowering to think about that. And for the sound, there's this song that I really like that refers to the yard as being heaven and inviting friends over and come on over and have fun and stuff like that. So I think about that one. And then lastly, I think about as far as people or things to invite in, I invite my younger self from childhood, and I invite my older self from when I'm on the rocking chair moment at the end of life. And I feel like I'm doing a favor for both of them. If I'm doing this, I call forth their enthusiasm to help me find that in myself. And I'm giving to my younger self the vision that he has had his whole life of what his yard might be like when he's this age. And my older self at end of life is looking back and thinking how happy it was that I gave him this gift of this beautiful yard.
I
So
love
these
that.
are things
Can we all use that when we give this workshop? We're gonna, you know,
that
learn from you there, Tom, and bring the older and the younger self. Because I
yeah,
think
they
this,
sit next to me, both of them. Yeah, it's a
this
nice thing. Yeah,
oh, wonderful. Okay, send me a picture of your beautiful yard, okay?
I will for sure.
And I also wanted to appreciate the social aspect. So one of the other things we could add in, we had so many different ways to connect with that emotional helper. And this is sort of where like advanced manifestation is something I like to practice and share with people. And that's where we see our project, our emotional helper, not only benefiting us, but the other people that it will touch. Maybe as a contagious emotion, maybe our project serving others in some way, maybe just letting our mind go to, wow, well, if I'm able to do that, then who knows how else I might be able to do that thing. And that might help this person, or, one person might feel this connection to me when they read the book, or, what will someone in my family be able to do with the garage if it's clean, or whatever whatever it is, like just letting that expand out from the one view into the many. And that when we really feel that, with manifestation, sometimes it's very, people stay with themselves and their experience. But if we can go more into the community or the social experience, I think it brings it into energetically a kind of different frequency. And that's why I think it's called advanced manifestation. Oh, great question, Joy. Why did we do those 4 locations and feelings in the beginning? Well, I think we all need, the way I create these group experiences is I'm always thinking about like preparation exercises. What will get us into the zone to be able to be connected and experiencing our intuition and our emotions, and not being at all afraid or hesitant to really plan and be with our passion and our goal. And so that preparation exercise, well, first we did the checking in with ourselves, that connection. And then we did the 4 different locations, the garden, the coffee shop, all that. And that allowed us to open our senses, trust our imagination, see the way we could think, feel about, well, think, see, imagine something, and get a feeling. Because this whole workshop is about getting these emotions, these feelings to be vivid and reachable. So that's what I felt that exercise was, very quickly like creating proof, hopefully, in oneself of an ability to do this. Otherwise, it can just, if we're just talking about, oh, your imagination is so important, you're unconscious, it's so powerful, I did it this way, people aren't really getting the direct experience of their own power in doing that. And so that's why. Thank you, Joy, for asking. Okay, anyone else? Should we do a little closing if we're
Actually, Deb has a question.
sure?
What if planning is an issue for someone themselves, like if they're neurodiverse and planning is a problem?
Well, that's what this is all about. I assume planning is a problem for all of us in some way. That's kind of the reason, in a way, for doing this kind of workshop, is that we all have really good intentions, really good goals, and things do get in our way. I didn't talk a lot about what was getting in our way because I wanted to focus more on bringing in the tools that would support us. But I would do this with someone who struggles, because I really believe that the emotional helpers assist in the planning. So even before they do, like they look at you might, if you're using this as a one-on-one coach and you're planning this out with someone and they're reversing engineering their tasks and their feelings, they might draw it out on a big piece of paper. And then you could have them really practice calling in their own way that emotional helper because of course there's going to be every week some additional planning and some action taking, and a way that each person has their unique way of creating obstacles and resistance for themselves. So those emotional helpers, those messages of encouragement, those physical experiences of it will help it in each stage. And also, if reverse engineering feels difficult for someone to conceive of, just go from this time forward. That's not so important. That's kind of a cool a cool little trick because it lets you feel the end point first. But if that's a struggle for someone, don't struggle with it. Just go from now forward. Is that good, Linda? Does that explain?
Yeah, I think that was helpful. She mentioned that when it came to the reverse engineering part, she just kind of checked out. And yeah, so I think that really speaks to that. There also is another question. Can a difficult emotion be converted to an emotional helper? And I thought that was fascinating because I know a lot of people use like maybe like righteous anger, right? Can be a catalyst for getting things done. So, but I'd love to hear
Yeah.
what kind of
Well,
your
there's a
thought there.
whole other strategy that is around looking at an emotion that triggers us or is difficult and turning it into a friend. So that's a whole process. Today we're looking at when we validate, so we validate what's difficult, we accept it, we give it language, we say like, I honor you. Maybe we see how it helps us, whatever the difficult emotion is. But then we're taking the action of calling in that emotional helper. In the other strategy, we're working with that difficult emotion and kind of talking to it, asking it what it needs, what it wants for us, imagining it as our friend, like really, really coming more to a connection point with that difficult emotion. So
I love it.
another day we'll do that one.
Fantastic. And then Moses has his hand raised.
Great. Hi, Moses. Is it unmuting?
Oh, I've got it now. Thanks
Great.
so much for the pardon me. I can't even think of
That's okay. Take your time.
reverse engineering. I hadn't thought about that for a while, but as soon as you mentioned it, well, it just seems so freeing to be able to go back, because I've got so much stuff.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
to be able, and I can just see how it can be helpful to someone else too. But it allowed me to free myself up and okay, yeah, this is the way it would happen, and here are all the blocks, and here
Yeah.
are the ways that I can use to move forward. I thank you for that. That was good.
Absolutely. And it's even easier if you're writing it down with someone and they can kind of see it on paper. It makes it even,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
Thank you. Good to see you, Moses.
Good to see you.
Bye. And those of you who are in mentorship group or group coaching, we're going to be practicing this one on Tuesday. And if any of you are not, and you've been thinking about joining, write to us. You can join anytime the mentorship group. Okay. So
Actually, there's another great question.
okay.
We're getting lots of participation, so I absolutely love it. So question. So how can someone maybe they just continually kind of like overcharge or overcommit themselves, even when reverse engineering? So I love this was from Verena, and I think it would be awesome if she wanted to unmute and kind of
Yeah.
share how
And I'm
that how
just
that
thinking
is.
about that a sec. So when the obstacle is overcommitment, let's all brainstorm this for a second. And Verena, especially you, if the obstacle or resistance that shows up is overcommitting to a lot of other things, I think many of us can relate to that. Even things we really like to do. Sometimes we allow our attention to go in many directions instead of staying with what's the one most important thing for me right now. So one method I like is to ask myself to be very clear right now for these 3 months. Like, what's my center point? Where do I want my focus to be going? And how can I remind myself of that every day? And then again, bringing in that skill of boundary setting. So how do I feel about saying no to the things that are taking me away from that center point of where I'm committing? How can I feel aligned emotionally when I say no? You know, practicing those statements, letting people know in the future, I'd love, talk to me about that in a few months. I have a project I need to complete now. Or maybe it's distractions that come up for an individual that's not about other people. And so when you catch yourself, you got to be able to catch yourself. But when you notice, maybe you want to do a daily review. Did I get pulled away by someone else or by myself in some way today? So if we review that each night, we'll be much quicker to realize when it's happening the next day. So I would start with that. Yeah. Okay. Linda? So
Something I thought of as well too with this is I think it's great to give our clients permission if they said, I'm 8 weeks out and I have it done, and then working backwards. So once you work it backwards and reverse engineer it, if you're like, oh, I actually need 12 weeks, then
Mhm.
we get to redo it,
Absolutely. Great
right?
point. Maybe it takes 4 months, 6 months. I was just picking a number there, so to kind of work with taking you through the process. But begin, if you're working with someone individually, begin with what they see as the finish line. I think it gets harder if it's something that's like a year or two out. I have used it that way. But this I feel is even better if it's something more like, that's why if it's a big business project, split it into a 3-month goal or a 4-month goal. Because it can get too much if it's like to reverse engineer something from 12 months just can get a little, I have found it doesn't work as well.
No, I agree. I
Yeah.
agree. It's almost like something 12 months out is like almost giving, sometimes can be like giving yourself permission to not
To not do it.
see it done, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Lots of great
Yeah, and
comments.
we can also go much closer. So we can also have a goal for 2 weeks and take it day by day.
Mhm.
That would be another really cool way to work with this strategy.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
remember a long, long time ago, one of the things that you shared that I loved so much and made such a difference was that when a client sets a goal, to then ask that, how can we make that even easier?
Hmm.
Um,
That's great advice. I love that, Linda. Yeah, I mean, you're bringing that in today, so I appreciate you for bringing that in. And that is great. And also in feeling an emotion, how can we make feeling that emotion easier? That's one of the things this whole thing is doing, is teaching us how it can be quite easy to feel these things through a memory, a sound, a request. When I'm really stuck, all I do is request it. I may not feel it right away, but I say, I'd really like to feel patience right now. Could universe, could you just like give me a little bit of that sense of patience, just like a flickering of it? And just making that request is making it easier. It's putting it into my awareness in a new way. Yeah. All right, guys. I think we should it's been an hour and a half, so I think we should do a little closing of our circle. I don't want to end without us kind of coming together. So I'm going to go into gallery view. And so I don't know if you guys see my gallery view or you have to go into gallery view too. But let's just imagine where you choose the place, whatever landscape, the garden, the coffee shop, the snow, the summer day, and just be with everyone here and just feeling into that wish for everyone's goals, everyone's emotions to be really actualized. So just what's it like to send that wish out to everybody and to receive that others are wishing that for you right now. So you might feel in your front body that wish going out. And maybe you have words for it, like may you have your beautiful emotions and goal actualized, achieved, experienced. And then feeling in your back body, receiving that connection, that encouragement, that wish right into your body, into your back body. If that doesn't feel right, feel it to your side, whatever feels right for you. But it's that giving and that receiving. And let's just do 3 deep breaths as we do that. Okay, well, I hope you have a wonderful day and happy International Women's Day. I was reminded of that today by someone. So, yeah, I hope you have a really wonderful rest of your day or evening and sweet dreams if you're in Europe. Okay, good night, everybody. Or good day. I just went to Europe. I don't know what happened. Okay, bye, guys.